Test, test. Okay. Members of the House, there being a vacancy in the office of Speaker, the Constitution provides that the oldest delegate in point of continuous service shall preside until a Speaker is chosen and takes his seat. The delegate from the 62nd District, the Honorable John Overington, is the oldest member present in point of continuous service. Therefore, in compliance with the Constitution, Delegate Overington will preside until a Speaker is elected.
That's not necessarily the oldest delegate, but the oldest one in continuous service, as I recall the way you clarified that. The House will be in order. All delegates will please rise while we are led in prayer by the gentleman from the 60th District, Delegate Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Please pray with me. Great, good, gracious God, thank you for our stunningly beautiful state, for our honorable, hardworking, friendly neighbors, and for the profound honor of serving them under the inspired constitutions of the United States and of West by God, Virginia. Thank you for this new day which heralds the beginning of an age of state government of the people, by the people, for the people. As we settle into the harnesses and put our shoulders to the work of serving our employers, please make us honorable, make us wise, make us humble, and make us bold. I ask these things so we may more effectively serve the Constitution, the people, and the principles of West Virginia. Thank you, sir. Amen.
The delegates will remain standing while the House is led in the Pledge of Allegiance by the gentleman from the 10th District, Delegate Kelly.
Members and guests, please join me as we honor the greatest nation in the world. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The clerk has a letter of resignation.
August 21st, 2018. Dear Mr. Clerk, with mixed emotions, I hereby resign as Speaker of the House of Delegates and as a delegate representing the 40th District of Kanawha County, effective as of 12 noon today. It has been a tremendous honor to serve this district, to serve in this legislature and as Speaker, and I thank the citizens of the Elk River area of the 40th District for the extraordinary opportunity to have served. It has also been an honor to have served with my fellow legislators in building a greater state for our people. I will leave the House with many fond memories and deep gratitude for the opportunity to serve. Sincerely, Tim Armstead.
The communication will be received and filed with the clerk. The clerk recognizes the gentleman from the 58th District.
Mr. Speaker, I note the absence of a quorum.
The gentleman from the 58th suggests the absence of a quorum. The members will please register their presence when the voting machine is opened. Ninety-five members having registered their presence, I declare the presence of a quorum. The first order of business is the election of a speaker. The chair recognizes the gentleman from the 27th District, Delegate Schott, for the purpose of making a nomination.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. Although it doesn't always seem that way, there are many advantages of serving in this House. And among those advantages is the opportunity to get to know some really remarkable people on both sides of the aisle. And among the most remarkable person that I have met here is the person who I have the honor and the pleasure of nominating to be our Speaker, Roger Hanshaw. As I told the members of our caucus last night, sometimes during these nomination speeches, you have to rely a lot on the representations of the person that's making the nomination speech. But in this instance, we've all had, or at least most of us, unless we're a new appointee, have had the opportunity to basically observe those who are going to be nominated. And you can rely on your own observations more so than ordinarily, and certainly more so than my representations. Roger is one of the most intelligent people that I've met, not just here, but throughout my lifetime. He has all of the degrees that come along with the mark of intelligence. He's got a BS and JD or law degree from West Virginia, a PhD in chemistry from Notre Dame. But in my experience, all those letters after your name don't amount to much unless you couple that with an abundant supply of common sense. And that's what I've seen in Roger, and that's one of the things that I admire most about Roger, is that he couples the extreme intelligence that he has with an extraordinary amount of common sense. And I think you've all had the opportunity to observe that. Another thing that's really impressed me about Roger is how direct he is. There are not going to be any games played with Roger. You'll know exactly where you stand, and pretty quickly when you're dealing with Roger. He's decisive, and for all of us, that's important as we operate the floor sessions. Each of us has a limited amount of time, and believe you me, as you enter your 70th decade, you start realizing just how little time is left and how important it is to grasp each minute. So we're not going to witness any of these occasional podium paralysis episodes that sometimes we have. You will get a decisive, quick decision from Roger. His grasp of parliamentary procedures is going to give him the ability to give us quick, decisive decisions upon which we can rely and which we can move on and move through our business in an expeditious, efficient, effective manner, and spare us the needless loss of time. Also, one thing that has impressed me about Roger is his ability to withstand any pressure. As I told the members of our caucus last night, in case you haven't noticed, and I hope this was a secret, but I had to let it out of the bag last night, whenever in the Judiciary Committee we had a very difficult or complicated issue, especially rules issues involving the environment and other things, Roger always was assigned those presentations and the defense of those issues on the floor. He never wilted. He always handled the pressure beautifully. And in this environment where we have to make numerous decisions that are sometimes painful, certainly often complicated, the ability to withstand that pressure is extremely important. One other thing I think is obvious for those of you who've dealt with Roger is the high integrity that he demonstrates whenever he deals with you. As I indicated, he's always direct, no games playing with him. You'll know where you stand with Roger, and you'll know quickly. I'm going to give you one recent example, very recent example. I could give you numerous examples of his character and integrity, but last night we were engaged in a very hotly contested race for the Speaker position from our caucus. It was very close. On the last ballot, I happened to look to my left to see what Roger was doing with his ballot, and he voted for his opponent. This was a very close race. I asked Roger after the election was over why, because I was a little bit puzzled, because it was a close race, and he just simply said it was the right thing to do. It was the right thing to do. And that speaks volumes about the person I think is the right person to lead our caucus. As I said, there's not going to be any games played. This is going to be all about opportunity. Opportunity for you, opportunity for your children, opportunity for your grandchildren to find those opportunities they need to be able to stay in this beautiful state, to continue being part of your family, my family. That's what it's all about, and that's the direction, that's the goal, that's the vision that Roger will bring as Speaker. So, without any type of reservation at all, I heartily endorse Roger and nominate him as our next Speaker and urge you to vote with me. Thank you.
The chair now recognizes the lady from the 49th District, Delegate Summers, for the purpose of seconding the nomination of Delegate Henshaw.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Chairman Schott. Please excuse me for some of the redundancy from my speech last night, but we got done late. You know the feeling you get when you meet somebody and you think they have it all? This is the feeling I get when I met Roger Henshaw. He's smart, he's matter of fact, he's not easily flustered or riled up, he's calm, cool, and collected, and he's not a game player. And most importantly, he's one of the most humble people that I have met. In the legislature, we develop relationships with people through our committee process and also through where we sit and spend many, many hours together. I had the pleasure of serving with Delegate Henshaw on the House Judiciary Committee, the Political Subdivisions, and Agricultural and Natural Resources. He was always the go-to person for me and for many committee members. If you needed to know how to ask a question, to make a motion, to form an argument, he was the person to ask. This asset not only was valuable in our committee, but it will also be valuable in the Speaker's chair. One of the biggest responsibilities of the Speaker is running the session and the floor proceedings. When I was handed this manual 4 years ago and I looked at the 100 pages that the rules of the House had to follow, I was a little bit worried. In my profession as a nurse, we follow algorithms. If the blood pressure is low, you do this. If there's no heartbeat, you start CPR. I started reading these words about pairings and divisions and motions for this and motions for that, and I didn't even know how to spell the word germane. But all I had to do was ask Delegate Henshaw, and he made it clear to me, this isn't that hard. It's a process and we can do it. And when he explained that to me, he has a way with his intelligence, but he doesn't make you feel stupid, even though I did feel stupid. When I think about the degrees that he has, that Chairman Schott alluded to, the biochemistry, the chemistry, the law degrees, and the one I favor most, hard knocks in farming, I realized that Roger Henshaw could do anything. He could live anywhere, but he chooses us, and he chooses to serve West Virginia as a public servant. He also represents a small community which I can relate to. For those of us that come from small towns that don't even have stoplights, where the possibilities of no water, no sewage, no internet, and frankly no jobs, we have somebody that understands this reality and can empathize with us. He understands that one policy change can make a difference in a community. In discussions we had last night, I noticed there were concerns that he's very busy and maybe doesn't have the time to serve as Speaker. But I thought to myself, he has a full-time job, he has a wife and 2 children, he's run the flood recovery, he's on the impeachment hearings, he's on the PEIA task force, he's doing it all. A friend of mine recently said to me, and she quoted Lucille Ball, if you want something done, ask a busy person, because they'll get it done. The last thing I'd like to say is that Roger's heart and his motives are in the right place. He's a principled policymaker who will empower the body to fundamentally reform and restructure our government where the status quo is no longer acceptable, and we will continue the transformation of West Virginia. Therefore, I second the nomination of Roger Henshaw for Speaker of the West Virginia House of Delegates.
The chair now recognizes the gentleman from the 37th District, Delegate Pushkin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, everyone. I promise to be very brief, as I'm sure I probably won't be swaying a whole lot of votes except for possibly one after what I've just heard. Mr. Speaker, one thing that I've learned in my short time here, quite frankly, it's something that you, Mr. Speaker, have exemplified in your long career here, and that is to be a good delegate, one must first be a good listener. We are supposed to go out and listen to the folks who sent us here. We're supposed to meet them where they are and bring their conscience to this building and act accordingly. Now, the same can be said of a great speaker. A great speaker does not take the gavel to further their own agenda. A great speaker does not take the gavel and tell us what they plan to do. A great speaker will listen to us and listen to the people of West Virginia and act accordingly. Now, in the time that I've spent serving with Minority Leader Miley, that's the kind of leadership that we've all seen. When we have a caucus, he listens to us, he meets us where we are, and he carries our conscience to the floor, and he also fights like hell for our position. That's the kind of speaker that Tim Miley will be. Tim Miley's not going to be the type of speaker that takes the podium with an agenda. Very often, I have seen Tim Miley put the will of our caucus ahead of his own agenda, and that's what he will do as speaker. And it won't just be listening to this side of the aisle or that side of the aisle. He will listen to the entire body, and more important than that, Tim Miley will listen to the will of the people of West Virginia, and that's the kind of leader he has been, that's the kind of leader he will be. So without hesitation today, I nominate Tim Miley as Speaker of the House of West Virginia. And I urge your vote.
The chair now recognizes the gentleman from the 16th Delegate District, Delegate Hornbuckle, for the purpose of seconding the nomination.
Good morning, everyone. I'm here today to second the nomination by my fellow delegate, Delegate Pushkin. I find it very important that we all know that Delegate Tim Miley is a team player. He puts everyone else before himself. The first time I was actually able to meet Tim, he traveled back in 2012 all the way from Clarksburg to see little old me in Huntington at my first ever fundraiser. And what that meant to me was I wasn't on the map, wasn't a known commodity, but he was all about the team that he wanted to take out his time to not just to come support me, but also to evaluate me, to assess me, to make sure that we were putting someone to be a part of this body that could do a good job. Being a stand-up guy is huge to me. And Tim is a person who's well-traveled, graduating undergrad in finance from SMU, getting a law degree from Duquesne. And what that means is he's far-reaching, well-traveled, being able to see all sides of the world and bring those experiences here to West Virginia. Knowledgeable and wise is Tim Miley, being the former chair of Judiciary, but also being the former Speaker of the House. And what he brings, knowing the rules of the House, is just invaluable in our quest to push West Virginia forward. Many times, also, as Pushkin mentioned, in our caucus, he will put the group's efforts ahead of his own. And there are also times where there might be a disagreement, but he's always willing to seek out the other person's opinions and values because he knows that everybody together will be stronger. I also feel that whether it is 5 years, 10 years, next year, even 80 years, Tim has always stressed the importance of being fair, and that while at some point we don't know when the pendulum could swing the other way, it's always the most important thing to reach out to one another. And that's why I think Tim Miley is the best fit to lead this House as we break down barriers again and try to move together in unison to push us forward. So again, I would like to second the nomination by Pushkin as saying that Delegate Tim Miley would be the best choice for us, and I urge your yes vote. Thank you.
Are there further nominations for Speaker? Hearing no further nominations, the Chair will entertain a motion that nominations be closed. The Chair recognizes the gentleman from the 64th District, Delegate Householder.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move the nominations be closed.
The gentleman from the 64th District, Delegate Householder, moves that nominations be closed. All those in favor will say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. I declare the nominations closed. The Honorable Roger Henshaw from the 33rd District and the Honorable Tim Miley from the 48th District have been placed in nominations. The clerk will call the roll. Delegates will vote for the candidate of their choice by calling his name when their names are called. Mr. Clerk.
Delegate Adkins. Delegate Ambler.
Delegate Roger Henshaw.
Delegate Anderson.
Delegate Henshaw.
Delegate Atkinson.
Delegate Henshaw.
Delegate Barrett. Delegate Bates. Delegate Blair. Delegate Boggs. Delegate Brewer. Delegate Butler. Delegate Byrd. Delegate Campbell. Delegate Canestraro. Delegate Capito. Delegate Caputo. Delegate Cooper. Delegate Coles. Delegate Chris. Delegate Dean. Delegate Deem. Delegate DeSerio. Delegate Eldridge. Delegate Ellington. Delegate Espinosa. Delegate A. Evans. Delegate E. Evans. Delegate Fast. Delegate Farrow. Delegate Fleischauer. Delegate Fluharty. Delegate Folk. Delegate Foster. Delegate Fritsch. Delegate Gearhart. Delegate Graves. Delegate Hamilton. Delegate Hamrick. Delegate Hanshaw. Delegate Harshbarger. Delegate Hartman. Delegate Hicks. Delegate Higginbotham. Delegate Hill. Delegate Holland. Delegate Hornbuckle. Delegate Householder. Delegate Howell. Delegate Iaquinta. Delegate Eisner. Delegate Eisner. Delegate Jennings. Delegate Kelly. Delegate Kessinger. Delegate Lane. Delegate Longstreth. Delegate Love. Delegate Lovejoy. Delegate Lynch. Delegate Malcolm.
Delegate Hanshaw.
Delegate Markham. Delegate Martin. Delegate Maynard.
Hanshaw.
Delegate McGeehan. Delegate Miley. Delegate Linville. Delegate C. Miller. Delegate C. Miller. Delegate R. Miller. Delegate Moore. Delegate Moy. Delegate Nelson. Delegate Overington.
Delegate Hanshaw.
Delegate Pack. Delegate Painter.
Hanshaw.
Delegate Pethtel. Delegate Phillips. Delegate Pushkin. Delegate Piles. Delegate Queen. Delegate Robinson. Delegate Rodiguero. Delegate Rohrbach. Delegate Romine. Delegate Rowan. Delegate Rowe. Delegate Schott. Delegate Sabonia. Delegate Sponagle. Delegate Sponagle. Delegate Statler. Delegate Storch. Delegate Summers. Delegate Seipolt. Delegate Thompson. Delegate Upson. Delegate Wagner. Delegate Ward. Delegate Westfall. Delegate White. Delegate White. Delegate Williams. Delegate Wilson. Delegate Zetezelo. Delegate Eisner.
think the staff was having a little trouble with that Common Core new math, but we've got it resolved here. The gentleman from the 33rd Delegate District, Delegate Henshaw, has received 62 votes. The gentleman from the 48th District, Delegate Miley, has received 34 votes. Therefore, I declare the Honorable Roger Henshaw, having received a majority of the votes cast, is elected Speaker of the House of Delegates for the remainder of the 83rd Legislature. The chair appoints the gentleman from the 27th, Delegate Schott, the lady from the 49th, Delegate Summers, and the gentleman from the 48th, Delegate Miley, as a committee to escort the Speaker to the clerk's desk.
Well, to begin, I want to congratulate Roger Henshaw on being elected Speaker of this legislative session. I can't contradict anything that was said about him with regard to the qualities he possesses. In the 4 years that I've known Roger, he exemplifies all of those that he was described with. And so, Roger, I wish you the best of success in what time remains for you as Speaker. I'm hoping it's short-lived, obviously. I'd be lying if I wasn't. But the fact remains that you are the Speaker and will be from here to the end of the year. And even if you remain Speaker in the next legislative session, I look forward to working with you in a very bipartisan, unified manner to move this state forward where we all know it needs to go. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Circuit Clerk Judge Dan Greer will administer the oath of office to the Speaker.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after
me. Okay. This time, if I could please invite my wife, Kirsten, to hold the Bible for me.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Roger Henshaw.
I, Roger Henshaw.
Do solemnly swear.
Do solemnly swear.
That I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of West Virginia.
That I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of West Virginia.
And faithfully discharge the duties of Speaker of the House.
And faithfully discharge the duties of Speaker of the House.
According to the best of my ability.
According to the best of my ability.
I will not accept or receive.
I will not accept or receive.
Directly or indirectly.
Directly or indirectly.
Any money or other valuable thing.
Any money or other valuable thing.
From any corporation, company, or person.
From any corporation, company, or person.
For any vote or influence I may give or withhold.
For any vote or influence I may give or withhold.
As Speaker of the House.
As Speaker of the House.
On any bill, resolution, or appropriation.
On any bill, resolution, or appropriation.
Or for any act I may do or perform as Speaker of the House.
Or for any act I may do or perform as Speaker of the House.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
sir.
Remarks by the Speaker.
Friends, please be seated. I was reflecting last night as we all left this Capitol and walked to the car on why it is that anybody would run for the House of Delegates. Why do each of us place our names on a ballot, go through the process of a campaign, and do all that we do to seek membership in this body? And I reflected on that all the way home last night, and the answer to me is found in my family there by the door. I'm pleased to have with me this morning my wife Kirsten and our 2 daughters. She's holding our oldest little daughter, Catherine. By the door is my mother-in-law, Mary Catherine King. She's holding our youngest daughter, Rebecca. And that family, my family, is why I ran for this House the first time in 2016. Not unlike why I expect many of you ran for the House the first time. We need opportunity as a state. We need our state to be a place where we can raise families, where we can stay together, where we can do the things that families do, where we can grow and pass along small family-owned businesses, where we can provide opportunity not for ourselves, but for our children, for our grandchildren, for our great-grandchildren. Our service in this House gives us an opportunity to make a contribution to our state, to our chosen home, in a way that other citizens of our communities will never have. I've remarked often to people with whom I've had the privilege to serve, many of you for the last 4 years, that on many, many days I've left this Capitol mad and frustrated, as I imagine many of you have. But I cannot think of a day, I cannot think of a single day when I have entered the Capitol that way. And I felt that way again this morning. I park on California Avenue, and this morning I entered the East Wing and paused for just a moment to see the sun coming up over the Capitol Dome there. And I thought to myself, we have an opportunity as the 100 members of this House to affect change here in a way that the citizens of the rest of West Virginia not only need but require and will never have themselves. And that's an obligation we have to take seriously. We'll do this process again in just 4 months. So over the coming weeks, we'll no doubt, as members of this body, be engaged in debates about matters of public policy in a very public way, often a very heated way. But I hope during that process and during these weeks that come, we remember that we are one of the 100 people who have the privilege to walk through that door. We are one of only 100 West Virginians who have the opportunity to sit here in this House and debate the future of families like mine and families like yours. And it's that reality that frames my decision to be in this House. It's that reality that framed my decision to be back on the ballot again this fall, not unlike what I'm sure framed your decision to be back on the ballot this fall too. You know, as Chairman Schott said, I became a student of parliamentary procedure many years ago, but I did so because I was an FFA member at Clay County High School back in the 90s. And I say that to say this: on my desk upstairs sits a small little plow, the emblem of a plow. And if you know the FFA organization, you know that at some point during the opening ceremonies for what those members do, the vice president of that organization says, "The plow is a symbol of labor and tillage of the soil. Without labor, neither knowledge nor wisdom can accomplish much." And while we are likely not to be together again as a body to meet and make decisions and deliberate, perhaps until the end of this legislature, we do have an opportunity to work together every day to actually work and implement those policy positions that we champion here on the floor of this House. We do have an opportunity to represent our constituents and make change and make meaningful, impactful contributions to our communities as delegates in a way that members of our community will never have. I cherish that privilege, and I hope you do as well. Never, never enter the doors of this Capitol mad. Enter the doors of this Capitol grateful for the chance to be one of the 100 members who get the chance to be here and chart the future for our state. From the bottom of my heart, I thank you for the confidence you've shown in me this morning. I can't express it enough. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As our Speaker Pro Tem leaves the podium today, I'd like to publicly thank Delegate Overington for his service not only in this House, but as Speaker of this body over the past weeks as we have navigated things that have been unusual to this body, that have been unusual to this House, and unusual to West Virginia. Delegate, we thank you for your service. All members and guests may be seated. Reading of the Journal, August 13, 2018.
Journal of the House of Delegates, Charleston, Monday, August 13, 2018.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from the 54th, Delegate Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of this corner back here, we congratulate you and welcome you as our Speaker. Now, let's get on with business. Mr. Speaker, I would ask unanimous consent that the further reading of the Journal be dispensed with for August the 13th and the 14th, and that it be approved as having been read. That's it.
Yeah. In characteristic fashion, the gentleman from the 54th asks unanimous consent that a further reading of the Journal for Monday, August 13, 2018 be dispensed with and that it be approved as read. Is there objection? Chair hears none. The reading of the Journal is approved. Reading of the Journal for August 14, 2018.
Journal of the House of Delegates, Tuesday, August 14, 2018.
Gentleman from the 54th, Delegate Evans. Did you make both motions?
Mr. Speaker, I did. The 13th and 14th of August.
Delegate has made a combined motion. Is there objection to dispense with the reading of the Journal for both August 13th and 14th, and that the reading of Journal for both days be approved as having been read? Chair hears no objection, so approved. This time, Chair recognizes the gentleman from the 58th for a motion.
Mr. Speaker, I move the House adjourn sine die.
Being no further business to come before the House, the question before the House is that the House stand adjourned sine die. Those in favor will please say aye. Aye. Those opposed will please say no. Ayes have it and the motion is adopted. The House is adjourned sine die. Chair wishes all members safe travel home.
The Secretary of State of West Virginia. Docket number 180712.
Mr. Bastrus? Professor Bastrus, I should say.
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
I said Professor Bastrus, I should say.
Mr. Bastrus. May it please the Court, my name is Bob Bastrus, and I represent the petitioners in this case, Mr. Don Blankenship and the Constitution Party. Before I address the two statutes that are the core of the Court's decision, I want to address two preliminary points that pervade all of the Secretary's arguments. As explained by this, and the first one relates to a point explained by this Court in its decision in Wells versus State Ex Rel. Miller, that prior to the 2015 amendment to 3523, 357, the law in this state was that those seeking access to the ballot through the petition process in 3523 did not have to comply with the January deadline for filing a certificate of candidacy. The deadline for independents and minor parties was the day before the primary for many years, and then the legislature in the mid-'80s extended it to August 1st for presidential candidates, and then eventually in 2009 for all of the various levels of candidates. The 2015 amendment then extended the January deadline to independents and minor parties.
I lost video, but I got it back, so.
Anderson versus Calabrese, which had held in 1983 that a March deadline was unconstitutional, so it follows that a January deadline would also be such. The second point relates to the persistent characterization by the Secretary of the process in 3523 as somehow being lax or easy, that Mr. Blankenship was taking advantage of the lax procedure provided by 3523. While I admit the primary process can be grueling, as I think each member of this court would concede as well, it is no cakewalk to try to get 1% of the votes, the signatures from 1% of the voters from the last gubernatorial election in order to get on the ballot. That's a very extended